I want to tell you something that most people in your life have no idea about. A few months ago, I was walking through my local grocery store. Nothing special, just a regular shopping trip. And I stopped in front of the canned goods aisle. Not because something caught my eye, because something was missing. 3 entire sections. Empty. No storm in the forecast. No news event. Just gone. And I stood there thinking, if this were a real emergency, what would I actually have at home? What would my family eat if the stores looked like this for a week? The answer made me uncomfortable. And I think if you're being honest with yourself, it might make you uncomfortable too. Here's the thing nobody is talking about right now. Supply chains are thinner than they've been in years. Retail inventory buffers have shrunk. And the foods that actually keep people fed during a disruption, not the trendy stuff, not the expensive freeze-dried survival kits, are the simple, old, proven basics that most of us stopped thinking about a long time ago. Today I'm going to walk you through the 10 emergency foods that every home should have, not because I think the world is ending, but because being prepared is one of the smartest, most affordable things you can do for your family right now. And number 7 on this list genuinely surprised me. It's something almost every emergency guide skips right past, and I think it might be the most important item of all. If you've never subscribed to this channel, right now is a good time. I put out content like this every week. Real, practical, no panic information that helps you stay ahead of things before they become a problem. Let's get into it. Item number 1, white rice. Let me start with something most people already have in their pantry, but probably not enough of. I was at a Walmart last spring, walking down the dry goods aisle, and I noticed something that made me stop. The 20-pound bags of white rice were completely gone. Not low stock. Gone. And this wasn't during a storm or a big news event. It was a regular Tuesday. White rice is the single most reliable emergency food you can store. It has a shelf life of up to 30 years when sealed properly in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. That's not a rumor. That's documented by food storage researchers and confirmed by long-term survival food companies. I looked this up myself after that Walmart trip. I checked 3 different stores in my area and found the same pattern. Inventory was thin. Prices had quietly crept up. A 25-pound bag that used to run about $12 was sitting at $17 or $18 in most places. The practical takeaway here is simple. Buy a large bag now, repackage it into food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids and oxygen absorbers, and store it somewhere cool and dry. A basement or interior closet works well. You don't need a huge space. A few 5-gallon buckets stacked in a corner cover a family for months. You don't want to be standing in an empty aisle wondering why you waited. Item number 2, canned beans. This one surprised me a little because it's so obvious, and yet most households are dramatically underprepared. Canned beans, black beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, chickpeas are one of the most calorie-dense, protein-rich, longest-lasting emergency foods available. A can of black beans runs about $1. It has roughly 350 calories and 21 grams of protein, and it has a shelf life of 2 to 5 years, sometimes longer if stored correctly. Industry data from food distribution companies consistently shows that canned goods are among the first things to sell out during any kind of regional disruption, a major storm, a supply chain hiccup, a cold snap that shuts down highways. I spoke to someone who manages inventory for a regional grocery chain. She told me that during the winter of 2024, they couldn't keep canned beans on the shelves for 3 straight weeks. And when supply came back, prices had gone up on several SKUs. Customers didn't even notice at first. That's how quiet these shifts are. Get a case of mixed canned beans. 24 cans is a good start. Rotate them into your regular cooking so nothing goes to waste. If you buy a can a week for the next 2 months, you'll have built a solid reserve without feeling any financial pressure. This is about protecting your budget and your family. Item number 3, rolled oats. Here's one that I genuinely didn't appreciate until I started thinking seriously about what I'd actually eat during a week without power or grocery access. Rolled oats check every box. They're calorie-dense, they're filling, they cook with just hot water. They store for up to 2 years in a sealed container, and up to 30 years in a proper Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers. And they're still cheap. A 42-ounce container at Costco runs around $5 to $6. What a lot of people don't realize is that oats can be eaten without cooking at all. Cold-soaked oats, oats left in water for 20 to 30 minutes, are completely edible and surprisingly satisfying. During any situation where fuel or heat is limited, that matters a lot. When I checked last month, Costco's store-brand oats were still well-priced and available in bulk. But I've noticed that their stock on large-format dry goods fluctuates more than it used to. I've started buying an extra container every couple of months just to keep my pantry buffer solid. Buy at least 2 large containers. Repack one into a sealed Mylar bag for long-term storage, and keep one in your regular rotation. Oats work for breakfast, for thickening soups, and even as a binding ingredient in simple recipes. You won't regret having them. You will regret not having them. Item number 4. Peanut butter. All right, we're getting to one that I think about differently now than I did 2 years ago. And I want you to stick with me here because number 7 on this list is going to genuinely surprise you. Peanut butter is a survival staple for a reason. A single jar has over 2,000 calories. It requires no refrigeration. It has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years unopened, and it delivers fat, protein, and calories in a compact, affordable package. When everything else runs out, peanut butter keeps people going. The data on peanut butter pricing tells an interesting story. Peanut crops have faced weather-related stress in major growing regions over the past several years, and that pressure has pushed wholesale prices up. Retail hasn't fully felt it yet, but industry analysts watching the agricultural commodities market have flagged peanut butter as one of the items likely to see continued price increases through 2026. I noticed this myself when I compared prices from 2 years ago to today. A standard 40-ounce jar of Jif or Skippy that was $6 in 2022 is now running $8 to $9 in most stores. That's a significant jump on a basic staple. Store at least 4 to 6 jars. Natural peanut butter has a shorter shelf life due to the oil separation, so for emergency storage, stick with the standard commercial varieties. They're more stable. Keep them in a cool pantry and rotate them regularly. This is one of those items where a small investment now pays real dividends later. Item number 5. Canned fish. This one is quietly underrated, and I think it's the most underused emergency protein source most people overlook. Canned tuna, canned salmon, sardines, mackerel. These are high-protein, long shelf-life foods that cost very little per serving. A can of tuna runs about $1.50. A can of wild-caught salmon is around $4 to $5. Both store for 3 to 5 years. And canned fish is one of the few emergency proteins that provides omega-3 fatty acids, something that matters for long-term health, not just short-term survival. Retail data from grocery chains shows that canned fish, especially tuna, saw significant supply disruptions during 2024, driven by fuel costs for fishing fleets and shipping delays from major packing facilities in Southeast Asia. Prices went up, and in some markets, availability dropped temporarily. I spoke to someone in the grocery procurement space who told me that canned fish is one of the categories they've had the hardest time keeping fully stocked for 2 years running. The margins are thin, the supply chain is long, and disruptions hit harder than consumers realize. Build a stock of mixed canned fish, some tuna for familiarity, some sardines for density and omega-3s, and a few cans of salmon for variety. Store them in a cool location and rotate them every couple of years. They pair well with crackers, rice, or pasta, all of which should also be in your emergency pantry. Think of canned fish as your quiet protein insurance policy. Item number 6. Honey. Here's one that genuinely shocked me when I learned the details. Honey never expires. Archaeologists have found edible honey in Egyptian tombs that is over 3,000 years old. This is not a myth. It's chemistry. Honey's low moisture content and natural acidity create an environment where bacteria cannot survive. A properly sealed jar of honey will last indefinitely. Beyond its shelf life, honey is a calorie-dense energy source, a natural antimicrobial agent, and one of the few foods that works as both a sweetener and a minor wound treatment in a true emergency. That's a remarkable combination for a single product. I looked this up because I was skeptical at first. I'd always stored honey but didn't really understand why it was so special. When I dug into the food science, it made complete sense. And when I checked current prices, I found that raw honey, particularly local varieties, has gone up significantly in recent years due to colony collapse pressures on bee populations. A good-sized jar of raw honey from a local source or from a store like Costco or Trader Joe's is worth every cent. Buy 2 or 3 jars. Keep one in your regular pantry for daily use. Seal the others properly, in glass jars with tight lids, and set them aside. When almost everything else has a shelf life problem, honey is the one thing that simply doesn't. Item number 7. Salt. I told you number 7 would surprise you. And I know, salt sounds too simple, too obvious. But hear me out, because most people are dramatically underestimating this one. Salt is not just a seasoning. It is a food preservation tool that has kept civilizations alive for thousands of years. Before refrigeration, salt was how people cured meat, preserved fish, and stored vegetables through winter. That knowledge hasn't gone anywhere, and in any serious, extended disruption, it becomes relevant again. Salt also lasts forever. Properly stored table salt, iodized or non-iodized, has an indefinite shelf life. It doesn't spoil. It doesn't degrade. And it is still one of the cheapest things you can buy. A 4-pound canister of Morton iodized salt costs about $2.50. Here's the part nobody is talking about. Iodized salt is actually important for long-term health because iodine deficiency becomes a real issue when people stop eating processed foods, which typically contain iodized salt. If your emergency diet shifts heavily toward whole grains, rice, and beans, all of which are low in iodine, you need another source. Buy a 25-pound bag of non-iodized salt for food preservation and curing, and keep several canisters of iodized salt for daily cooking and health. The total cost is under $20. The peace of mind is enormous. Salt is the one thing on this list that most emergency guides mention briefly, and then move past. Don't move past it. Item number 8. Pasta. Let's come back to something deeply familiar, because familiar is what you want when things get stressful. Dried pasta is one of the easiest, most versatile, most calorie-dense emergency foods you can store. A 2-pound bag of spaghetti or penne runs about $1.50 to $2.50. It cooks in 10 minutes with just water. It pairs with canned tomatoes, canned fish, olive oil, or virtually anything else in your emergency pantry. And it stores for 1 to 3 years in a sealed container, or up to 25 years in Mylar bags. Pasta prices have been volatile. Wheat prices surged following disruptions in major grain-producing regions over the past few years, and even though some of that pressure has eased, retail pasta prices are still higher than they were in 2021. A case study from a major food retailer showed that pasta was among the top 5 most panic-purchased items in every regional supply disruption over the past 3 years. When I checked last month, bulk pasta at Costco was still a good deal, and the 6-pound bags from their Kirkland line hold up well in storage. I've started buying an extra bag every time I go, just sliding it into the back of the pantry. Buy 10 to 15 pounds of dried pasta in different shapes. Variety helps with meal fatigue during a stressful period. Store it in airtight containers or large Ziploc bags with the air pressed out. Keep it cool and dark. Pasta is comfort food. And in a difficult week, comfort matters more than people expect. Item number 9. Canned tomatoes. This is the item that turns a bare pantry into actual meals. Canned tomatoes, whole, diced, or crushed, are the base for hundreds of recipes. Pasta sauce, soup, stew, shakshuka, rice dishes, chili. They add flavor, acidity, and nutrition to almost anything, and they store for 2 to 5 years with no loss of quality. The nutritional picture is also strong. Canned tomatoes are high in lycopene, an antioxidant that actually becomes more bioavailable when tomatoes are cooked and processed. So canned tomatoes aren't a nutritional compromise. In some ways, they're better than fresh. Industry reports from agricultural analysts have flagged tomato processing as a category facing supply pressure. California, which processes a huge share of the canned tomatoes sold in the United States, has faced water stress and cost increases that have pushed prices steadily upward. A case of 12 cans that was $10 to $12 in 2021 is now closer to $16 to $18 in most stores. I noticed this price creep myself about 6 months ago. I'd been buying the same brand for years and just suddenly realized I was spending noticeably more. I switched to the store brand and the quality is virtually identical at a lower price. Stock up on a case or two of canned, diced, and crushed tomatoes. They're the glue that holds an emergency pantry together. They make rice taste like a meal. They make pasta taste like dinner. That psychological lift during a difficult week is not something to underestimate. Item number 10. Apple cider vinegar. This one is more than just a food, and I think it's the most overlooked item on this entire list. Apple cider vinegar is a preservation agent, a cooking ingredient, a cleaning solution, a natural antimicrobial, and a home remedy for minor ailments, all in one bottle. A 32-ounce bottle costs about $4 to $6 and stores indefinitely. The mother in raw apple cider vinegar separates over time but doesn't indicate spoilage. Just shake it. In an emergency pantry context, vinegar gives you the ability to do pickling and food preservation without refrigeration. You can extend the life of vegetables, make quick pickled eggs, and preserve herbs in a way that makes your food supply more interesting and longer lasting. I looked into this after reading about traditional food preservation methods that predate refrigeration. What struck me was how central vinegar was to daily life before the 20th century, not just in cooking, but in cleaning, disinfecting, and medicine. That versatility doesn't disappear just because we have modern conveniences. Raw apple cider vinegar, the kind with the mother, like Bragg, is the best version for your emergency pantry. But even standard white vinegar has enormous utility as a cleaning and preservation agent. Keep both. The cost is minimal. This is the kind of item that most emergency lists skip entirely. That's exactly why I'm including it. Okay. Let's step back and look at what we've actually been talking about today. Because there's a pattern here that goes beyond just a shopping list. Every single item on this list shares something in common. They are old. They are proven. They are the foods that human beings relied on before refrigeration, before just-in-time grocery delivery, before the assumption that a store would always have exactly what you needed. Rice, beans, oats, peanut butter, canned fish, honey, salt, pasta, tomatoes, vinegar. These aren't trendy. They aren't exciting. They aren't products that any company is spending marketing dollars to promote. And that's exactly why most people overlook them. Here's what I've noticed over the past few years. The people who are genuinely prepared, not the ones who panic-bought toilet paper, not the ones who spent thousands on freeze-dried survival meals, are the people who quietly, consistently built up a supply of simple, basic, proven foods. They did it slowly. They didn't make a big deal of it. They just made it part of how they shop. The system we rely on for food is more fragile than most people want to admit. Supply chains are long. Inventory buffers are thin. Retail stores typically carry about 3 days' worth of product. That's it. 3 days. When something goes wrong, and things do go wrong, those shelves empty out faster than most people are prepared for. This isn't about fear. This is about being the kind of person who doesn't have to scramble. Being the kind of family that can look at a difficult week and say, "We're okay. We have what we need." We can focus on what matters instead of standing in an empty aisle. Most people will not do this. They'll watch a video like this, nod along, and then not change anything. And then 6 months from now, when something happens, a storm, a shortage, a spike in prices, they'll wish they had. You don't have to be one of those people. Start with 2 or 3 items from this list. Add a little each week. In 30 days, you'll have a meaningful buffer. In 60 days, you'll have real peace of mind, and you'll have spent maybe $50 to $80 total. That's a better return than almost anything else you can do with $80. If this was useful to you, and I hope it was, hit subscribe. I put out videos like this every week because I genuinely believe that the more people understand about what's actually happening in the supply chain, in food pricing, and in consumer trends, the better equipped they are to take care of themselves and their families. Leave a comment below and tell me, what's already in your emergency pantry? What did I miss? I read everyone. Next week, I'm going to cover something that I think is even more important: the 10 household items that are quietly disappearing from store shelves in 2026, and why most people won't notice until it's too late. I'll see you then. Stay ahead of the curve.